Okay, we'll call the meeting of the Paulding County Airport Authority to order. Okay. Lord, how about leading us in prayer, please?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, and thank you for all the many blessings that you've bestowed upon us. Dear Father, especially at this time of year, help us to be mindful of you and your providence and all that you provide for us. Dear Father, help us to remember that Thanksgiving is not just one day out of the year, but it should be every day. Thank you today especially for our country, for those men and women who are in harm's way to defend it. Dear Lord, we pray for peace in the world. We pray for the peace of Israel. We pray, dear Father, that you would protect them and that you would stand with those, as you promised to do, that protect her. Thank you for your many blessings. We appreciate the kindness you've shown us, even though we don't deserve it. We're also thankful for Calvin's return to health and the wonders and miracles you work in his life. For these and all your many blessings, I pray in your name, in the name of your precious Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure about that. Okay, we need to go around the room and introduce yourself, just for our records. That's it.
Ed Tibbetts, retired,
Terry Tibbetts, retired engineer, pilot, mechanic.
I'm going in a retired position, do nothing.
Is somebody gonna work on that front row?
I don't think so.
Tom Thatch. I act like I work sometimes. Yeah, thank you.
Roy Sparks, citizen.
Bob Board.
Gil Morgan, I aspire to retire.
Brent Spark.
Joe Sarver.
Dan Kingster, retired Army. Jim Croy, Croy Engineering.
Adam Langley, Croy Engineering.
Thank you.
Tony Avery, citizen.
Thank y'all. Okay, we have the minutes of our October 17th meeting and a call meeting October 24th.
Motion to approve.
We'll take that for both minutes. Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Next, we have our financial information. Need a motion to approve it.
So moved.
If no questions, all in favor say aye. Thank you. Okay. FBO report.
Some of you know, some of you may know me, some of you may not know me. My name is Joe Sarver. I stepped up in the position as FBO General Manager upon the resignation of our last General Manager. I did work in an FBO in Grand Rapids, a very busy FBO where I was certified to fuel commercial and private jets, as well as go through a rigorous training program for moving these aircraft. I'd like to congratulate those who were part of the air show. This is our first meeting since then. We had a great air show, and I hope to improve and be back to do it better next year. We have 39 reviews on AirNav. We're still holding a 5-star rating, which is we're still 5 stars, but it's still a spectacular rating. We are up to 6 tie downs now. Our sales were up 70%, 129% in Jet A alone, and Avgas was up 35%. Now these numbers do include the air show, which is why we have the drastic increase. We're averaging 7 operations a day and 3.8 fuel transactions a day is our average for the month of October. We're happy to announce that our T-hangers are finished now. We have 12 tenants in them, one of which is a business, Klinkenborg Agricultural Spraying. They bring to us 3 helicopters. We have 2 available T-hangers left. We're working with the FAA again on hosting another class here. We are going to continue to do the accident investigation and prevention class. We're going to try to hold that class about once every 4 months, but we're looking for other classes as well. And again, we're still working with the AOPA on hosting classes here. Recently I talked to the United States Coast Guard out of New Orleans. They are looking to do a mission flight here from New Orleans. Part of what helped with that is the fact that the pilot is here from Dallas. He is a Paulding High School graduate, so that's part of the incentive for him to get that mission to fly here. I'm also in the process of trying to get into Dobbins Air Force Base like the previous manager did. He went through some classes. Unfortunately, I was not able to. I'm hoping to do them classes. Those classes will help us get night fueling certified for the Black Hawk helicopter, which could be a huge asset to the airport and the Jet Center itself. The Army is planning on using KPUJ twice a month for about 8 hours a day. They will put a NOTAM on the airport. They're looking to bring in 2 Chinooks or 2 Blackhawks, a C-130, and possibly a C-17 if the runway configuration will allow so. This is going to be twice a month, indefinitely, they said. Right now there's a couple things they're working on looking into. If our airport is in their program, it'll be a fast, possibly 2 weeks out. If it's not, we're looking at about 6 weeks out for this process to start. They will be doing drop exercises of parachuters and cargo. I currently have a list of approximately 7 aircraft who are looking to move here, all jet aircraft. One of them coming from McCollum Airport is Clorox Bleach. I have Corporate Flight Management wants to bring a Gulfstream 4 and 3 smaller Cessna Citation jets. And I got a Hawker Beechcraft 800 that's currently in Hilton Head. The owner resides here in Dallas, and he wants to move that aircraft here as soon as hangars are built. As soon as the hangars are built, all of these aircraft are ready to come here, but will not come here until that hangar is built. The loss of the corporate jet in the tornado cost us about $15K a month. That's a proven fact from March. With the fueling of that aircraft, I mean, that's a huge, huge bust for us. So the current 60x60 tenant that took over the Klinkenborg, they are an annual company. So in the wintertime, they're not going to be flying. So the replacement of the jet with the Klinkenborg 3 helicopters didn't offset the cost of the fuel purchases at all. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anything?
Question.
Well, I think we've talked about, to start a hangar, we need somebody to sign on it.
And the FBO has interest. What we need to do is we need to pursue those with some formal letters of intent and potentially even some lease agreements. If we can get those in place, then obviously we'll have what we need in order to go ahead and move forward with our project.
Okay. Need a construction progress report, LPA.
Yeah, I got a phone call, excuse me, last night from our project manager at LPA, Jacob Redwine, who's at home with the flu, and I told him to please not come here and give us the flu. So I'll run through these real quick. They're pretty straightforward. The grass and erosion control project is complete. All we're doing now is finish out, close out paperwork to be submitted to the FAA and the state. But hopefully you noticed around the airfield it's a whole lot greener than what it was 3 or 4 months ago, so it looks pretty good. That project again has a 2-year warranty on it instead of a 1-year warranty, so we're not concerned about the grass dying off in the spring. If it does, they're on the hook to come back for the next 2 springs and redo that. So we got an extended warranty on that work. The environmental monitoring has been taking place. They recently did the updated fish survey and submitted it to the Corps of Engineers and U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Took a quick look at those numbers, and some of the fish numbers were down a little bit, but within the normal range of fluctuation for seasonal and other types of adjustments. So nothing appears to be off kilter there. The timbering operations are still ongoing. You probably saw trucks sitting up on top of the hill behind the parking lot. They're bringing about 3 to 4 loads of timber out a day. So probably by the end of the calendar year, they'll be finished up with the timbering operations. And at that time, we'll be able to get some better survey data. As you all know, the LiDAR that we originally had on the airfield wasn't very accurate because of the tree canopies. So we'll be able to get that reflown and get some accurate survey, which will help us out with our designs moving forward in the future. Moving on into the next agenda item, which is the update of the 2012 Air Show Committee. I think Brent's going to give us a short presentation on PowerPoint here, and then I think David will take over.
Yeah, let me just say, Kerry Tidmore put together a 14-page, very comprehensive PowerPoint. Kerry got behind on his flying and therefore salary during the whole air show process, and had an opportunity to take a trip that would kind of bring him back up to speed. So he regrets not being here. A lot of this information is from Kerry, but Brent Sparky Sparks, who flies a 747-8 model, flew fighters in the Air Force and was our operations boss for the air show. He and I are kind of tag team here to debrief you on some of the highlights of the air show.
Initially, I also want to apologize for this incredibly cheesy mustache. It's all part of a cancer awareness initiative called Movember, and I got talked into it, and it's going to come off as soon as November's over. Anyway, I'm going to go through a very short presentation just to hit some of the highlights and sort of punctuate the air show and bring things back towards our stated objectives when we took on the challenge of this air show, and just to sort of finish the 2012 air show formula. Slide, please. That's what we'll go through in order. Next slide, please. Our stated vision and objectives, as briefed in December of 2011, safety and professionalism were the key to the successful conduct of this air show. Bringing the right message to Paulding County, which is that aviation is here in Paulding County and it's open for business. Build the future of aviation as part of that. Raise interest in our airport was also a key stated objectives and the one that we continue to work towards. Honor the military and enjoy a sense of gratitude and patriotism. That objective was stated, and for those that were at the air show, you saw how that came home with one of our wounded warriors showing up during the day on Saturday unannounced, and it was really an outstanding event. Enjoy community and friends, and of course have a great day. Next slide, please. Well, safety and compliance or professionalism. We get a check mark for that. There's two critically dangerous parts of any air show. One is obviously the flying portion, but the other, and sometimes people think the more dangerous part, is the hot pit, where the airplanes are starting and taxiing and fueling. And oh, by the way, with the exception of Joe and Tanner, that's all being done by volunteers. And everybody handled themselves in the most professional manner possible during that entire 3-day operation. And every airplane, a non-stated objective was every airplane was to leave with the paint that it showed up with, and every person was to make it home at the end of this air show without an injury, and we met that objective. You can read the other stuff there. Just a couple of numbers that we want to just kind of bring out there. At different points, there were upwards of $25 million worth of airplanes sitting on this ramp and equipment, and of course there's no value for the personnel. But the airport went from Sleepy Podunk Paulding to something a real going concern, and then back again, and we managed that in a way that not a lot of operations could have, and it's something to really be proud of. And of course, as any risk-averse person will say, if we don't fly, we can't have a flying accident. And here we flew 58 plus sorties a day, which is, in my experience, an extreme sortie count. And to do that without an incident is really something to note. Next slide, please. We produced a product that brought the right message to Paulding County. We're not saying that we communicated to as many people in Paulding County as we could have, And we're really excited and enthusiastic that we can communicate to more. But we certainly produced something that brought the right message to Paulding County. We brought in some of the most enthusiastic and helpful people that I've met since I've been here in Paulding County. It was exciting to work with them. And we, through it all, maintained a stated standard of quality and leadership, and did not compromise on that standard through the whole procedure. And that's really quite difficult when things get busy. Next slide, please. I'm not going to spend time on this, I'll just let you read it. We use a lot of people, from people fueling aircraft and putting oil in aircraft they've never seen before, to people helping park cars, to people just generally helping out on the ramp. The volunteerism was absolutely spectacular, because it's one thing to volunteer, it's another thing to volunteer and stand up to the pressures that were put upon those people by us, by continuously asking them to do more. We've used a ton of resources and managed to hand all that stuff back in working order. I can't resist, but we were trying to figure out how many people came to the show, and we didn't have someone standing there clicking, and nobody had a number for us. So when the guys came to get the porta-johns on Sunday, he said, "How many people came?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." And he said, "Well, I can tell you." Anyway, slide please. Here's some of the feedback. Before I get into this, just go back one slide, please. I'm going to show you some of the positive feedback. And positive feedback is awesome. It's excellent. And it really does. It validates what you did. I want everybody to know that we also took a board and sought out the negative feedback. We sought out the areas where we could do better. And I have captured those in great detail. I'm not going to bore you with them today. I did want to go ahead with the slide. I just wanted to highlight a couple of comments that come from some very important sources. That second comment there, which I'll read because he phoned me right after he sent it. This is the leader of the Aeroshell team, our Cornerstone Act. I want you to know that we do a lot of shows across the country, and many are very established. But your show, from sign-in, pilot brief, to the show execution, gave no indication that it was your first show. Your whole team needs a big pat on the back. Well done. Coming from a guy like that, that means something. That means that we didn't just cobble together a quick show and throw it out there. That means that we had a plan, we executed our plan, and we did not deviate. And that kind of feedback is not common. Next slide. The people that did sponsor the show and did bring vendor booths out to the show were absolutely flabbergasted by what they were part of. And to the person have said they will come back and they will increase their support. Next slide, please. And throughout the community, there has been for those that came to the show, there has been a whole bunch of great feedback. There have been some negative comments as well, to be sure, and we spent more time looking at those than we did at the pats on the back, to make sure that it's not something that we neglected. Next slide, please. Slide. If we do get an opportunity to do the air show again, and the way that we've rounded off the after actions of this air show, we've taken aboard all of the information that we need, and we've compiled it into what's called an after action report, which Carrie Tidmore is preparing, and feeding it directly back into a business model and improving our plans for the future. Any questions for me? Thank you.
I've got a couple more things to bring up on the air show. I'll try not to duplicate anything that Sparky has said. I think one of the slides that was left out, which everybody in this room understands, is it takes a lot of work to put on an air show. I really, as many different military things I've been involved in, none of them took any more work than this exercise or this air show did. A lot of moving parts, a lot of dynamics, and without all the volunteers, at 80 plus on there were at least 200 volunteers, aside from just the core group that met monthly and twice a month. We did have an after-action meeting yesterday, a couple of them, or you can call them hot wash. So we've got all the information. You know, there's a lot of things that can be done better in a future air show. I guess we were strong aviation-wise, we were strong operationally, and I already mentioned the people. There was a strong team of people that took on a lot of tasks. But there's a lot of room for improvements in sponsorships, in marketing, and advertising. So, to me, the measure of success is asking myself some questions, and I think you all would probably want to ask yourself the same questions if you haven't already done it. You know, was it safe? Not just out here on the airport, but in all the parking lots. You know, were people getting onto buses and just safe in parking and everything on the ramp here? Was that safe? And it was. I'm assuming that most people in this room attended. And did you think it was a good quality, a great show? Everything that I've heard indicates that it was. Did the families, was it a family day of entertainment and fun? And again, the only thing I've heard from different families is, you know, now I know what this airport's all about. Were veterans recognized, and was it had the patriotic side that we all wanted to have on the core team? Is our airport recognized and on the map, as Sparky said, more than it's ever been before? And as a community, the cities of Hiram and Dallas, and even the whole region, is there more buy-in to this airport than there was before? If the answer to those questions for you and for me is yes, then I truly think the air show was successful. It was worthwhile. It was worth the time, the money, and the effort to put that thing on a month ago. And you know, to have the sense of satisfaction and accomplishment that we have. Speaking to the board here, you may recall that last January we voted in the affirmative, I think it was unanimous, to proceed on for October 20th in the air show. As far as the move ahead or what's ahead slide that was up, if we're going to go for a 2013 air show, then the time to start, as Carolyn will tell you with the chamber events, you start right after the event ends to begin on the next one. And we at least need the verbal affirmation. Sparky has stepped up. You know, I'm going to have a different role in the county here a month, and Carrie's got some other obligations as far as being an assistant executive director. Sparky has stepped up and said, hey, I'll be the executive director of the next air show, whenever that might be. I'll invest the time and the efforts if I have the support of the Aviation Authority Board. There are a lot of things that would be changed, and maybe Sparky would want to take a minute or so to talk about that if the board has time. But I just want to remind everyone that we were the ones collectively that began this last January, and if we're going to have another one, we need to begin again really today, or as soon as we can. You want to add anything, Sparky or Calvin?
Well, I think it's important to note that, and not to get too far down in the details, but I think it's important to note that, well, there were some successes. This was a wonderful event, and it is something that we can use as a tool, as an established tool now, and walk into somebody's office and say, look what we did, and look what we can do again. It is also important to note that there are some areas that where we need to do things differently. And specifically, one of those is the financial aspect of the air show, and we're prepared to do that differently this year. And I think that it's not reasonable to say that to run an air show that's not profitable over and over and over again is a reasonable thing to do. And I'm not interested in doing that. I am definitely interested in running another air show because I think it's the right thing for Paulding County. I absolutely do. And it can become an incredible resource for the marketing of this airport, if done correctly. With your blessing, the way ahead is clear, and I am prepared with some other volunteers to move ahead starting today. And what I'm, in a nutshell, planning to do is to move forward in the black, execute an air show in the black, and at the end of it, write a check to some local charities and put some money in the bank for the next year's air show, and never see red ink again. That's my plan in a nutshell. With your support, I'll wait for your words. Are there any questions for me about running another air show?
I got one, as far as you can hear me. What are you gonna do different as far as sponsorships go?
The approach towards sponsorship is just going to be more aggressive. And the big difference between this year and last year is we had nothing to offer last year. We couldn't walk up to somebody and say, hey, look at this opportunity. And what begins today is the production of the resource that we walk into somebody's office and say, look, these pictures, these are from the air show that we run. Okay? And then we'll open it up and show them the pictures of the lineups of people standing around in C-130 that could also be staring at the sign that they paid for to put on the side of the fence. And the lineups of people that are buying food here all day long that could be quoted in context of advertising. And we're going to get them to write checks, not to give us in-kind donations. The next thing is we're going to put a break point in. And that break point will be, as of this day, if we have not achieved a certain level of sponsorship, we're going to pull the plug on the air show. Because we cannot run the air show in the red.
What day will that be?
What I was planning is the end of the first quarter, the end of March in 2013. If we cannot raise sufficient funds, and by sufficient, I would consider if we cannot raise 65% of the cost of the air show based on my business plan, then we ought not to be running the air show.
Sounds like a no-brainer to me.
Any other questions?
Let me pick the date.
The 5th and 6th of October. And there's a reason for that. It's not opening day for deer season, which is critical. It's not homecoming. I did not consult the Georgia Tech, Alabama, Auburn football
It
schedule.
won't matter about Georgia Tech, that's only about 10,000.
Yes, sir.
I thought
They
you,
ain't from around here.
I thought you wanted sponsorships for this thing, boy.
I can be selected.
But we have a great plan to offset those people that come to our show and want to keep track of their football game. The other reason for the 5th and 6th of October is not for 2013, it's for 2014. Because on the 4th and 5th of October of 2014, the Canadian Forces Snowbirds have us on their calendar. Now, that's not a 100% commitment to come, but we're on their calendar. That's one of 3 of the greatest jet teams in the world. Want to come to Paulding County and put on an air show.
Please don't say Paulding. The Chamber of Commerce does not like that.
I use that word in jest because, you know what, we put on a world-class event. And I hope everybody understands that. What Kerry and Calvin and Dave did was not a literal air show. It was world-class. And people can't just pull one of those out of their hat. That's tough. And you know, I take on I accepted the potential to do this air show again. With that in mind, I've got a tough act to follow. And but our name is out there. Our name is out there, and people, as you saw, I mean that's 1% of the feedback we receive. People want to come. And you know, with people who, you know, working with people who are way smarter than me, which is a lot of people. I hope to use the air show, again, to go back to our objectives, which is to sell this airport. To get someone to come on in here with a bulldozer and a big old checkbook and say, hey, I need to be a part of this thing. It's not just to run an air show. I don't just want to run another air show. I want to sell this. Any other questions for me?
I just add a comment. I think one of the best things was the recognition of our veterans.
Yes.
And to have the younger ones here that have just come back from war and have sacrificed tremendously, but for the older ones and folks like Dr. Covington that helped to create a modern Air Force that either flew the planes or carried them on the seas or were protected by them on the ground across this world is amazing, and especially for that generation of folks to be publicly recognized and thanked, and then to see and be a part of those things again was really awesome.
Yes. And as well, we did move forward a little bit with respect to charities and bringing some needed attention to initiatives here in the county. And that is going to be a cornerstone to our air show plan for 2013 if we're given the opportunity. And as I said, the day after the air show, my plan is to write a big check to a local charity, write a check to ourselves to put back in the bank for the next year, and never see writing.
I moved to an air show.
I'll second.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. I reckon that's your charge to get started.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Report on the NBAA.
I just want to give a quick report. As you all know, we had NBAA a couple of weeks ago down in Orlando. A couple of interesting things from the show this year. First and foremost, there were 9,000 people who were registered via the show who did not show up, who could not get there because of Hurricane Sandy hitting the Northeast. So it was a strange show. I think this is the 4th or 5th year in a row that we've been in attendance, and the aisles were basically kind of empty. Attendance just wasn't anywhere near what it normally is. The first day, that was kind of a shock and kind of a little bit of a letdown. But what we realized going into the second day is that because there were 30% fewer people there than what there is at a normal show, we were able to talk to everybody that we needed to talk to. We were able to walk up to folks who otherwise we would have needed to have had an appointment, a scheduled appointment to get in to see, and we were able to walk up and stand a few minutes and wait for them and talk to them. So oddly enough, Hurricane Sandy actually worked out pretty good for us. We were able to speak with folks from Embraer, from Bombardier, from Dassault, from basically every company that we wanted to talk to, we were able to speak to. So we came back to the show with some great leads. As you all know, we took our aerospace companies with us this year, had representatives from Top Flight Aerostructures, from Aerospace Fabrication Georgia, from Rotorworks, and from Westcott Engineering with us this year. That worked out fantastic. Those guys were able to assist us all week long in getting out and talking to people. So instead of just Jamie and I having to have one person in the booth and one person out trying to hawk people down, we were able to go out together and meet with companies and talk with them because we had plenty of people to come to the booth. So it worked out absolutely fantastic. I want to make sure everybody knows that we covered the cost of the entry for those guys, which really we only had to pay for 2 because the rest were included as part of our booth space. So we actually didn't have to pay for the rest. We only had to pay for 2 entry fees, which I think was $100 a piece. They paid for their own way down there, their own way back. They paid for their own hotel room. They paid for their own food. So at their costs, they came down and helped us with our show. So I can't say enough about the dedicated group of companies that we've got in aerospace and aviation in our county, but they're pulling together, and it's really a neat thing to see. Obviously, they were able to make some leads down there and talk to some folks as well, but that was not their primary purpose for being there. The primary purpose for being there was to help us and help market this airport and the aviation community of Paulding County. So, fantastic show. Next year, it's back out in Las Vegas. But we have the MRO Americas show coming up in Atlanta in the spring, which is our next really big opportunity. And we already have signed up for a booth there. We've already talked with our partners that came with us to NBAA about attending America's MRO with us in Atlanta. Of course, that'll be a low-cost show because there's no travel, no hotels, anything like that. So it's a great opportunity for us to continue the marketing that we've been able to do in this airport.
What is MRO?
MRO is maintenance, repair, and overhaul. Those are some of the major targets for us for growth and expansion of the airport. So, it's in April. I don't have it exactly. I'd be glad to look it up and email it to you.
Like, will you send me a list of donated their services going on?
Be glad to.
Can you do that?
Okay, the MOU with the Board of Commissioners.
You get that one?
As y'all all know, government entities generally are exempt from taxes the year following the year in which they purchase property. So for instance, if Paulding County were to buy property in June or July of a particular year, they become exempt for the next year. The school district and the county have been operating under an agreement for years that said if that happens, if either the county or the school district purchases property in the middle of the year, that those entities that receive those taxes will only get the tax for that year prorated up till the date of sale. So in other words, if again the property was sold on June 30th, you would only get the taxes from January 1 through June 30th, and by agreement, you would not collect taxes from June 30th through December 31st of that particular year, with the understanding that it's going to be exempt for all future years anyway, because the entity is ultimately exempt. The school district said the county had had an agreement like that for years. This proposal is a proposal that includes the airport authority and then ultimately the industrial building authority as an entity covered by that contract. So what that means is if any four of those entities purchase property within a particular calendar year, the only taxes that would be collected on that property would be the taxes from January 1 up until the actual date that entity took the property. So you would need a motion and a second and approval to be a part of this memorandum of understanding. From the airport authority standpoint, it's pretty easy because we are exempt, and we also don't get the taxes, so it's really the county and the school district that are giving up the potential taxes for that particular year.
So moved.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
The next agenda item is approval of the lease extension for 319 Clark Creek Path. As all of you are aware, that's the home that we own that's down off the east end of the airport. It was the Seymour home that we purchased back in 2006 as part of the land acquisition for the airport. We have had a 2-year, 24-month lease tenants in the house. That contract is set to expire. Actually, I think it expired in October, actually. The tenants that are in the house are happy. They like to stay there. Given that home values have dropped over the past 2 years, I assume leases have probably dropped as well, and they're willing to stay with the same lease rate that they've had for the past 2 years. So I think that's fantastic on our end. So we'd like to just simply extend that contract for another 12 months. All terms, payments, everything stays the same. As you probably recall, this is a tenant that was put in place by Ruth Duggins. She manages that property for us. If the water pipe busts, she takes care of it. If the heat stops working, she calls Art Ragsdale. So it's been a very easy contract for us. We just simply get a check every month and haven't really had to do anything with it. So we have gone and inspected the house a couple times just to make sure that they're not tearing the place apart. And each time that I've been out there, the place looks great. They take care of it, treat it as if it's their own. So I say when you got good tenants, you keep them. That's what they ask for. That's what they ask for.
ask that we do another inspection just to give us an update
Absolutely.
as we report back.
Well, you don't have to answer, and you have, as a landlord, you have the right to enter at any time, so.
I'll schedule to go out next week and take a look at it. Assuming there's
I
no
move
issue.
to extend the lease on the same terms for an additional 12-month period.
Second.
Is that 24 months?
12,
12.
which is what they asked for. They'd like to do 24 months, I think we ought to give them 24 months, but I think what they've asked for is 12.
No other questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.
Before we go into the next agenda item, we do have a closed session, and I'd like to go ahead and take care of our closed session before we finish up our agenda.
Okay, and motion? Motion to approve. Second.
Hey, El. How you doing? You doing all right? Good to see you.
And a motion to go back into regular session. Need a second? Second. Okay.
Well, it was hot earlier when they turned it down, and then they just went to
So we're gonna have a second session of this? All right. Okay, we need to talk about the civil common agreement.
I move to approve the civil common agreement, subject to attorney's final review and consent, and the recommendation of the executive director.
Okay, if no further questions or comments, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank y'all very much. Any other business?
Make a motion with you.
Okay, we're adjourning. We need to go right into the IBA meeting. We got people that got to leave.
You too.